Okay, recorder's on. This is the Bluff Town Council Strategic Planning. Today is September 14th, 2022. It is 10:42 a.m. Roll call.
Linda Sosa.
Graham Murray.
Ann Leffernan.
Erin Nelson, serving as town manager.
And Jim Sayers is on his way, but we thought we'd just go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn this entire session over to Erin then.
Excellent. Okay, so what we're going to go through first, and I really appreciate you all being here in person. We're going to have some interactive discussion today, and we've done so well virtually. You all have really made this work so well. But I thought, given what we're talking about today, it might be easier to be in person. So we are going to kick off with, I'm going to call this planning to plan. So this is kind of our initial discussions about strategic planning. I know you all are on board and you see the value in it, but I'll just go through a couple things about what we can kind of expect over the course of the next few months, no matter who you end up going with. Today, I'm just going to set some ground rules for our participation so everyone understands, what we're doing today. We're going to talk about what is strategic planning briefly. I know that Ann and Jim and I had spoken to this when we met with Pathways Associates the other day, but I think for the rest of the council and for anyone listening in on this session, just a brief little overview is good. The big thing that I want to stress today, this is a work session, so it's the town council participating only. But I want to talk about the other stakeholders who are going to be critical to this process. So that's going to be the first thing that we talk through together as a team is who else would we want to involve as we work on this plan. I also really want to give some time to where have we been? What have you already accomplished? Because there's a lot that you've accomplished over the last 4 years, and it's good to focus on, what's already been done in setting ourselves getting an idea of where we're going in the future. Also, I want to talk about what you've learned. So that really could, take this discussion kind of anywhere. But what have you learned? And that'll propel us forward. And then finally, we're going to talk about where we are going. So this is like the brainstorming, the big ideas, just to kind of get these creative juices flowing. The idea with Pathways is, if we can at least get them some of the big ticket items that we know are going to be a part of our plan, or we'd like to at least explore, that'll kind of help narrow down some of the information that we provide to them. Now, with that being said, I fully expect that additional stakeholders will have other ideas, but just as we start to brainstorm, these are the big things that we're going to be looking at. I don't think we're going to have time for a SWOT analysis, but I'll talk about that and why it's important. Briefly, and again, I don't think we're going to have time for it, but a SWOT analysis is an analysis of your strengths and your weaknesses. So those are internal factors. So what are your internal strengths and weaknesses? And then the opportunities and threats that your organization may face. And Jim Sayers is here now.
Yes.
So Jim, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. We've
no,
got some interactive.
Thanks for your patience.
So we've got Jim on, so that's great. But it's your opportunities and threats. Those are external factors. So strengths and weaknesses, internal, opportunities and threats, external. And it's really important to understand where you sit in, just where you're sitting in order to figure out your strategic plan moving forward. So those are kind of the things we'll talk about today. We will also, agenda item 2, we're going to talk about Pathway Associates. So I definitely do want to leave time for that. So people can kind of help me with time checks. We'll do that. But so ground rules for today's discussion, we're welcoming all ideas. This is the purpose of today. We're not shooting down any ideas. We're not passing judgment on them. That's what brainstorming is. We are getting as many ideas as we can to the table. And so with that, and I know here we are in person again, which is great, but we're going to try not to interrupt each other. We're going to ask for clarification without judgment. So if there's an idea that's on one of these boards as we go around, we can ask for clarification. But again, we are not shooting down any ideas. We're just looking for the idea to start. And thank you all for being here today, so all members of the council are participating. And again, we're not seeking audience participation, this is just a work session. Community involvement will be coming, it will be, we will talk through, all of the stakeholders. And they'll have time to participate at a later date. So, for the record, for folks, who, maybe just need a refresher on what a strategic plan is, I'll just kind of read this out, but a strategic plan serves as a community's roadmap and is used to prioritize initiatives, resources, goals, and department operations and projects. The strategic plan is a big picture document directing efforts and resources towards a clearly defined vision. So we are going to use that plan to create actionable, timely, and concrete action items. The biggest threat of doing a strategic plan is that it just sits on the shelf and doesn't get used. So that's the biggest thing that I want to focus on internally, and if we bring on a consulting firm, is that there are actionable items that we can use. This is not a one-time exercise. This is a playbook that you will be using for the next 5 to 7 years to ensure that things are getting accomplished. So, and we are embarking on a journey to move Bluff forward in a measured, planned, and thoughtful way. Are there any questions about that? Excellent. So, actionable playbook, not going on the shelf. So, the big thing that I want to talk about, and Kathleen mentioned this too, is it's not just the people who are in this room, although you do serve as, the folks who represent the residents. But I just want to lay this out originally. So I will write this down, and we can have this for grandma. Everything is going to get written down on paper today, so we can store it up, take pictures, and upload it. But these would be grandma documents, which is why we're not doing it on the whiteboard today. So just a heads up there. We'll all have a different colored pen, but I will do these first couple, and then we'll do the ones before. So, who are additional stakeholders in addition to everyone in this room today?
Citizens of Bluff.
Citizens of Bluff.
Citizens of San Juan County.
San Juan County, sure.
Utah.
Utah in general, how we fit into
Right
the bigger plan, okay?
Businesses.
Businesses. Leanne and Linda, any thoughts, anything you'd like to add?
Well, San Juan County.
Got that, but we'll add visitors, I think that's good. And sorry, I shouldn't say I think that's good, that's just, I will add it, because we're not passing any judgment on any of this, so.
We're not throwing any of these out.
We're not throwing any of them out.
Our neighbors.
So I know, I'm thinking like neighbors and our bordering communities, is that fair to say?
So when Brant said county, were you referring to San Juan County officials, or were you referring to the county residents? Like, those are two different things, right?
They sure are.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, and so we'll
Probably
add
got
San Juan County officials. Thank you, Ann.
Bluff Waterworks.
Yeah.
I think the former BSA members.
Schools.
What was that one there?
San Juan County Schools.
Cool, okay. All over the place. These are not in any particular order.
Four.
We're gonna have four. Okay. I'm gonna add them next to businesses over here.
LDS mission.
LDS missionaries. LDS missionaries. Okay.
St. Christopher's. There you go.
Great.
How about pickleball?
They're kind of.
Can I expand that into other?
Sure.
Excellent.
Like other activities?
Yep.
Design real blood.
Pickleball / activities. Okay. Sorry, I know I'm reading my chicken scratch. I will make this more legible, so.
Like it.
Also,
San Juan County would include like the fire department.
we'll do fire and EMS separate, if that's okay.
Probably UDB.
Yes, UDB.
And our neighbors across the river.
Yes, let's see here. Neighbors and bordering communities, I
there
will
you
change
go.
this to plural. Okay. Anything else before we move on?
Well, we have a lot of BLM on 4th Street.
Sure.
That's right.
Sitla.
Sitla. BLM.
Yellen,
Forest
Sitla,
Service.
Forest.
I'm just trying to think outside the box. There's a little bit of nautical association from there for it.
FFA?
So, yeah.
FAA, thank you.
FAA.
FAA. Should have written smaller. We have a
Better
lot of
gravel
stakeholders.
operation.
Stakeholders.
The gravel operations, the same.
Road.
Gravel, the gravel
Oh,
operation.
just the gravel. Oh, I see.
Songwriter, all of it.
Okay. We think that's a pretty good start. And again, the purpose of brainstorming is it's just gonna be kind of this synergy. So you might think of other things and we can add that into public record, during our next meeting. But we've got a pretty good list here, and I wanna say again how, this is not just the folks in the room. We really need to think of ways that we can involve these folks, because it's a big plan that doesn't just impact, today. It's, continuing to set the foundation. So, okay, sure. Well, now I know I'll write smaller on my notes. Okay. Anyone else before we move on to my next question?
That looks good.
This is a very good start. So I will just put this here for now. All right. So the next question. We'll start with number 1. And we'll go. What has the town of Bluff already accomplished? What have we already gotten done in the last 4 years? And this does not need to be all inclusive. However, I think there's a lot that has been done. So start throwing them out.
Well, we have a general plan, and we have a planning and zoning commission. And we're zoned.
And we're zoned. Absolutely. An exclamation point on that one. We're putting CCC purchase.
We've taken all our old records, put them, what's the record, what is the word? Archive attention, and
Yep.
we've done a really good job with that.
Great.
I think that's important.
Committee form, roads, and active transportation, and do we have any other ones? Recreation or?
We're trying to do cemetery.
Do
Not
you want
much
me to bring
success.
that? I might, wait, do you want me to include that one? It's just
Well,
working on it kind of thing, or that one might
Yeah,
be
we're-
better suited for.
Maybe they ought to be in the stakeholders.
I think that falls more within the threat.
I think you can, that one will probably go up on the wall somewhere, so hold on to that, please.
Our ordinances.
Ordinances, yes. And I'm gonna call that like all-inclusive ordinances and resolutions. I'm sure there are some that, were a bigger win to get on the books than others, but in general, you have a process and procedure, you're very effective at, talking about them and getting them through, so.
It's kind of like ordinances, resolutions, and policies are kind of the 3 big
Paperwork.
things.
Excellent.
That's huge.
You hired people, great thing. I'm personally very thankful. That's a
We
big
have a
deal.
growing, bank account and, steady revenue, improved roads.
That's right, we got the taxes set up for roads again, for taxes.
Yeah, and we haven't taken on any debt. That's kind of a negative plus, but, We have safety initiatives.
Most of
One
the-
second.
Place speeding, we met with all control,
We have reserve room, taxes, have it engaging the community, can I kind of include that in YouTube?
Yeah, with the whole digital, meeting format or electronic,
Okay,
We've set up an accounting program through Polaris and the tracking of our ordinances through, Muni Code and Muni Doc.
We've got citizens on most county boards that run populated with Bluff people before, so how would you?
I think, yeah, citizens on boards, because we have like, Britt Hornsby on the, federal stuff, Lynell Shaw on the federal stuff. So just,
All our board vacancies.
yeah,
We're so diligent on getting those, straight.
yeah, representation.
Yeah, and you know,
and,
like they said,
Michael,
show up,
P&Z,
showing up 90%.
Michael Havigan's on P&Z, the county. Or no,
Ed Duck.
Ed Duck.
it is,
One,
yeah.
and then
Michael's on the transportation, San Juan Transportation.
We have
So,
our
yeah.
water rights and the ownership of the apparatus.
We've successfully applied for the CARES and the ARPA funds and grants. I think we lumped those all together.
That's great audit.
And we,
Yeah.
have the lease to the airport.
Facility.
Yep.
Unflexible.
Successful audit, airport.
Yeah, we had
Bank
the
funds.
lease, transferred the lease to the town as well.
Correct.
For the airport. And then we transferred the lease from the BLM to the town of Bluff from the county.
For the airport. Yep, got that one.
And then, we also set up offices back here.
Yeah, we've got town offices. Again, quite the list. You can read the chicken scratch.
4 years.
4 years, exclamation point.
And the community center, you know, people are taking care of it, it's under the town manager.
Absolutely.
Structure's in good shape.
We have the only rentable commercial kitchen in the county
Is that
that
right?
we maintain.
I'm gonna just, we're gonna add another page. We'll add another page, because I do think this is a good one. So, commercial kitchen.
I think the fact that we've established a positive relationship with county officials is huge.
Yeah, it's taken a lot of work on your part, you know how much
Number
work
one
that's
thing for the town is to have a great relationship with the county. Both of my two good friends that are town managers for 35 years, that's what they both tell me. And,
It's one of the most difficult things to do, too.
some areas of the country.
Yes.
That's a lot.
We've established an EMS process to recruit, train, and retain. That was my project through the leadership conference.
And retain.
And we trained
Let's say you've got training, which we will talk about. There's ongoing training needed, but yeah, training for, elected and appointed officials. So, and again, we are keeping all these, but I will get them in a nice, pretty format that we can review electronically as well.
We have a town manager,
Our manager, Jim.
And staff.
big accomplishment.
What else? Anything else? We can keep adding, for sure, but I do want us to recognize that it has been, I mean, it's a team effort, there's a lot that goes into it, and you guys can do hard things. I mean, that's big. So when we're thinking about long-term, there are definitely projects that we are gonna, that are gonna come up today that, someone might have a doubt about. Gosh, are we ever gonna get that done? Is that ever gonna be part of the town of Bluff? And I want you to recognize, that's why we're not shooting down any ideas today. You can make hard things happen, you just gotta have a plan to do it. So, excellent work on that. If anything else comes up, we can add it here today. But from all of that work, here, let me give this to you, Brandon, to add to our continue.
Page 2 on that. Please. I'm gonna be organized this stuff. I don't want to mess this up.
When I pass this
That's a
off,
scary thought.
All right, so when we think about everything that you've accomplished, that the town, the community that you've accomplished, what are some of the big key learnings and takeaways? And, you know, don't shy away from the things that, you know, they were hard and so you learned from, but what are those big lessons that you've learned working together over the last 4 years?
Nothing has really been easy. Everything is a little harder than you thought it would be.
Nothing is easy.
Yeah.
I heard a tongue-in-cheek over here. If you want me to write it, I will, but I
said,
think.
don't trust the mayor, but I was.
Can I reframe that into you're learning,
Teamwork.
you've learned how to work together.
Learn how to work
Right,
together.
you've learned your personalities, you've learned how, you know, yeah. Okay, teamwork,
Teamwork. Just like,
and at the end of the day, it's helpful to have, you know, someone who's able to execute on things.
So the phone line.
Opportunity.
For me,
Opportunity and prep.
for me, I kind of feel like I've learned, let this process come to me rather than trying to force myself into it.
Okay.
And I like, that. I feel like that's sort of part of what, for me, is just kind of be more patient.
And I'm gonna reframe that. We talk about that a lot, in logistics, about this push versus pull. And you really want the system to pull. It's hard when you're pushing out and you're getting resistance, but when you can get the system to pull things to you. So I'm gonna put push versus pull and patience as, I think those are both really great, items to include on this list.
I mean, working with this crew, you have to be patient.
We navigated COVID.
Oh, that's a big one. I'm gonna do hardship. I mean,
Based on what we accomplished.
who has, I mean, who can say up until now, I mean, maybe like 1918, governments made it through. But yeah, that's a big one. It's really big for a small town where we're such a connected community.
Well, and it takes a lot of patience. Everybody was more stressed than normal.
I think the fact that we were able to actually incorporate and do it without legal assistance and spending a lot of money we didn't have was really good, because we had so much to do that first 30 days, and we did it.
And that's the thing with the general plan, too, just knowing that we as a community can put things together from all the other examples around all the other towns and pull things together, which doesn't have to be a big production from outside.
And can you, so incorporated without like a lot of external assistance, is that a way to, or can you help me read that? What you just said, I just didn't get it all.
I don't know how to say it. So we had the vote to incorporate, and then you had 30 days to do a whole bunch of stuff, or where it's done, you're shot dead in the water. And we did it.
Sort of that act of incorporation.
Yeah, the act of incorporating, because of course we hit the resistance immediately with San Juan County not canvassing the vote. And so,
I think that's really.
yeah, that first 30 days was really hard, yeah. But that COVID piece, I think you're right about that, right on top of incorporating.
You know, every cloud is a silver lining, and I think it gave us some time without some external pressures, you know, even though it hurt us, you know, I think it was beneficial in ways that we don't understand yet.
Another big lesson that's is tied to COVID is that we learned that we could do without in-person meetings, and we could get more participation by virtual meetings. Yeah. I never want to get rid of that. Yeah. I
didn't think we could.
Well, that's to do too, stay inclusive.
Yeah, I think one thing I learned is that we have a little more credibility than we started out with. We got right on top of the COVID thing and most of the issues that have come up, we've got right on top of it. And I detect that there's, sometimes a grudging respect, but a respect for the, town as a political entity, yeah, from everybody.
And we were hoping that outside influencer, the outside partners would be there, but it was cool to see that.
Yeah.
With UDOT and with Utah League of Towns and all, like the BLM, they send us that, that was great, the recognition that we are a town and that we are elected people.
Our partners,
Yeah.
how many partners we have, is what an account that is.
But they all included us. Before we were just a little slip of the county, and then now we actually get people. So we didn't see that. We were hoping for that.
Yeah, I think there are some people in the county that really thought that we would disincorporate because that is the pattern that Bluff has set for itself with this fractious community. Not so. So that's neat.
One other big lesson was, for me, was that kind of tied to working with the community, like the county and the fort, is we've moved away, I feel like, from that big divide of them and us, in many ways, like with working with folks across the river and up in the county and the fort, I feel like maybe it's tied to that respect piece, but I feel like we're moving off of that and we're being viewed as a bigger community.
You kind of hold your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have learned that they can work with us and we can work with them.
And that the community members can work through us to work with them.
Yeah.
Maybe benefit.
The other thing is that we're not gonna go away.
Yeah, we were worried about disincorporation and we were worried about, a little bit about that, that it could happen.
Yeah, not just that though, but when we go to county and watch something, we don't fold and,
Right.
we just keep going till we hear it.
Pretty amazing story, really. Like the little folks get together and incorporate a little town. 4 years later, we got financial plans on, town master.
Excellent. Okay. Any other thoughts before we move on? All right. So, to frame it, you have accomplished an awful lot, and these lists are not all inclusive by any stretch. You've learned, but it does take hard work. And, a lot of these things, they really were, out of necessity. We've got to get this done. It's important to, just true incorporation to be seen as a valid entity. But now you're in this really wonderful spot. We are in this really wonderful spot as a community where we now have the resources to plan and be able to position ourselves in a way to pull off some really big stuff. And that's I think really important, is that you have this strong foundation. You know that we're not going away. we're not gonna dissolve. And so with that, I'd like to really start talking about what are some of the things that are just coming up. We have a lot of things that we talk about in meetings, that we can check the box or we've started the process, but I'd really like our focus today to not only be, just those big picture of just things that we haven't gotten to yet, but what are the projects that we are going to need to continue to work on over the next year to 7 years. The things that are going to be wrapped up here within a month or two, those probably wouldn't be part of the strategic plan. However, they might be the start of some bigger plan, if that makes sense. So the smaller tasks, we're really going to try to stay away from. We are thinking big picture, big projects. Certainly include everything you want, but after the fact, we are going to go through and say, is this a task or is this, something that's going to roll up into, the bigger picture? And so you have a very wonderful general plan. I can tell it was very, very well thought out, lots of work went into it. And so that's what I kind of used to help structure our conversation today. You've got some big headings in here, and I will read them off for the record, but you've got land use, transportation, economic development, heritage and history preservation, health, safety, and infrastructure. There's also a section on development constraints, which I do want to discuss. I know there might be projects that go into that, but I've broken those up into the two subheadings of water and geographic constraints. You also have a section on implementation and enforcement, so you will find that that's also on one of the boards today. And then I have an other, because, you know, I do think that there are projects that maybe won't fit necessarily super cleanly into these specific headings that you know might have been thinking about. So on the community center wall today, the ones that are on the wall are double done, so your Sharpies will not bleed through, and they shouldn't bleed through anyway. But I have all of these headings, and so what I'd like you to do is each have a different color of Sharpie. That was intentional. That way, if we have questions, clarification questions today, we can trace back to your color. But how I want to start the brainstorm is individually. So that way we're not walking on top of each other. No one's necessarily taking credit for any of these ideas, but you're each going to individually brainstorm, and then we're going to bring them back to discuss, and that way they're read into the record as well. But I'd like to give you, 10, 15, 20 minutes, kind of whatever you need. I think maybe 15 would be great. I do have them spread out, so you don't all have to run to transportation or run to, whatever. So go through all of them. Just start jotting down some ideas. Yes, sir.
Well, this is great. I love that it's doing that. Is there a way we can get some coffee?
Ooh, is there a way that what?
For coffee?
That's a good question.
I
Maybe.
wish I have coffee. I'll make coffee now. We have a way to make coffee.
Yeah, we do have a, we do have a way. We've got the Keurig back there. And
Yeah.
We could pull that.
Bring it out.
Safety and infrastructure.
I know. I'm gonna find a spot.
Put it down.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, so this is kind of individual time, and again, we'll read these back into the records. This is not, being done out of sight. But just go ahead, pick a spot, space to start, but do circle through all of them, to make sure your thoughts are there.
Those 5, or there more over
So
here?
it should be
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 should be it. So.
Okay, and everybody should remember, we're still, recording, so
Correct, yeah.
do not lapse into what I just started to do, was to say something totally inappropriate. So,
Okay.
I think the listeners are used to that. There goes the mayor again.
And they're not in any particular order. I did separate some of the bigger ones, so you're not all crowded up next to each other. Safety, heritage. Oh, and yeah, the one has water, preservation, and implementation all on the same one over here. I didn't know if we had 12 pages. So that's why there's 7 pages. All right.
Can I make anybody copy? Yeah. All right, 1, 2.
I want the dark stuff, no hazelnut, no flavor, or.
You know, that's everything I like about coffee. I'm serious, that's all I like. And get some snacks while you're at it. I have thought. And the great thing about doing this separately is when we come back together, we might still have some synergy and add some things. You don't feel pressure to get everything on here, but anything that's coming to your mind, go ahead and add it.
What flavor? Anybody got? What flavors here I got? Brazil. Strong. You want something else? Cherry. Flavor.
Nope, just black.
No sugar here.
All right, for folks listening in, we're still walking around and adding things, and we'll read these into the record soon.
Sayers will probably complain if the mayor got served.
I took 4 years to figure this out.
All right, looks like we're kind of wrapping up. I'm gonna give folks another 2 minutes to jot down ideas. That's 2 minutes, and then we'll come back together and get these read off and discuss. Oh, no, that's totally fine.
Are we supposed to be checking stuff?
No, if you have an idea, you know, that you already, if that someone else already had up there, that'd be a good check. But yes, I agree. If they're not checked, doesn't mean that you don't agree, but maybe those were higher on your list in your mind of priority items.
Could we add rural Utah projects as stakeholders?
Yes, I think that would be great. So I'm adding rural Utah projects. Rough. I'm doing the acronym rough there.
You're next. You're third.
My next?
Yours was starting to go.
We're gonna give it about another minute to get those ideas on there. Of course, this is just our first time doing this, so we're gonna generate lots more. But I've seen some very, very well thought out ideas here. Great. Left of our audio. All right, I'm gonna start kind of picking these up, bring them back to the table, and get them read off.
I am freezing.
It's a little chilly, ain't it? What is that, a kimono thing? Or a takeoff on a kimono?
I think it's a,
Takeoff on a kimono.
yeah, I think so. It's from Guden Schoden, so it's a Swedish product. But they have, like, usually have a theme, and in one catalog will be like leaves and patterns. But I could have used something warmer today.
Yeah, I was torn, so I just threw this down. I wear this $25
Everyone
jacket.
wants to come back together here. Go through these. Actually, let me get these in order before I, also, if you didn't notice, I started out with a great big Sharpie here, and then I realized your titles got longer and longer and longer and longer, and it sounded like stuff.
Okay.
Is that my coffee?
Okay, I can't fill this up, I just fill this up. and do it.
Oh, yeah, you need a, bottle or something, like, hurrah. Hooray.
I'm trying to let it come to me.
Economic development, that's what I get for having extra paper to protect our walls. Okay.
Well, we appreciate that you're protecting the walls. I think the
No
community,
reason to hurt the
yeah.
wall. Okay. Let's clean it up now. Yeah, all of it. I have what? There's a little. Okay, here we go. So I do want to get started because I do want to leave a little extra time at the end for us to get to our last agenda item today. So, in the interest of, this all being on public record, I am going to go through each of these. I think my goal for today, we're not going to get too in depth of what the projects are involving necessarily, because, that's the plan, and again, it's really important that we don't just jump into, everything. This is just the start to it. So I'm gonna read these off, and then the purpose of this discussion is just to clarify, if anyone had any questions about what was written down, in terms of clarification of the project, and then we can go ahead and move on to our last piece today. So, it is just after 11:30, like 11:31. Okay, so land use. First one on here is preserving green space, and there are 3 check marks next to that other council members had that at same prioritization. So preserving green space, pre-development surveys and post-development surveys, bathroom/welcome center in town. We've got a check next to that as well. Creating F1, I assume that's creating, or is that
Zone.
FI?
Zone.
It's the zone. Okay, excellent. And for the record, what's that full name, just so we can,
Factory.
factory industrial?
Yeah, it's factory industrial. The level 1, which is the low.
Okay, level 1. All right, excellent. I've got upgrade county landfill, and then a little check mark next to it. Septic drying bed at landfill. Everyone know what that is? Any questions? I personally don't know what that is, so if there's any.
What is it?
Septic drying bed at the
So what it
landfill.
is it's the service for all the septic tanks on the reservation, county, landing, all Bluff, that when the septic pumper comes and pumps it, they have to take that somewhere. So what they do now is dump it in the lagoon, and it's not ideal at all. What ideally is you have a concrete bed that they back up to, dump it in there, it dries out, the little dusty stuff that looks like ash, you scoop up when it's full, you scoop it up with the backhoe, whatever,
And
running motor,
it can-
and put it in the landfill.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
So it's a service that needs,
we're not gonna get too far into it, but just that definition to help, that's
It would be
great
ideal
in the
if the county
clarification.
would do it, I mean,
Yeah.
the town could make one, but anyway.
No, that's excellent. Thank you for clarifying what that item is. I also have on here airport transfer deal and ownership to town of Bluff, and that does have a check mark by it. So it sounds like there's some additional things that need to go
We own
into
the
that,
land
or,
in the airport.
They own the land, and they give us the lease.
okay.
So could we get the ownership of that? Is that possible?
It's in progress.
No, it's not in progress.
It's
No, it's a huge project.
It's a big project,
It's a
that's what
big
we're gonna
project.
leave it
Yep.
as, it's a big project.
preliminary.
Okay, preliminary, okay, okay.
Thinking about it.
Anything else on land use, just as you were talking
Um,
about?
I do have a question. What does that mean about the surveys? What is that all about?
Oh, pre-development surveys and post.
So
What does that mean?
multiple times, since I've moved here, people have bought property, started to develop it, and they're not on their lot. They've been
Oh, I see.
scraping somebody else's lot. It happened just behind Cemetery Hill most recently.
Yeah.
Stole a
Okay,
lot.
gotcha.
And so, in my mind, I put that on there. Before somebody develops a lot, they should have a survey and mark their setback. That way they know they're building on below. And that way they're not building on top of, Ann had the problem when she built her house. Her next door neighbor built on top of her land. So this prevents, with so many out-of-town owners, property owners, it protects their interests. Like, these, Stoles in California, when they started developing her property, unbeknownst to her.
I'm gonna bring it back in.
Go ahead.
We're
That's
clarifying.
good.
Gotcha.
He understands exactly what I'm saying.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Lynette. Okay, anything else on land use before I move on to transportation? And sorry,
No,
we're gonna move it forward, these are,
Yeah.
that's what's
That,
it is.
it happens all the time, and I'm passionate about
Good, no, I'm glad it's on the list. Okay, for transportation, I have, and again, as we're going through it, we're not passing judgment, these are just clarifying, so.
it. Okay, if I
Number
get
one.
passionate, calm me down. I got a few things to push my buttons, that's one of them.
All right, we've got bus to Salt Lake City, and again, this is just transportation, so that's a big category, so bus to Salt Lake City. Active transportation, AKA transportation facility for bicycles, pedestrians, making Bluff walkable. I had a check mark by it too. So just that big active transportation plan, is it fair to put plan behind that, or just active transportation as a category?
Active transportation is
As a
good.
category, okay, great. Shuttle between restaurants and motels, this could be, it's probably, business owners of Bluff for including them in that. Establish a second route across the wash, and added to that, and safe crossing of San Juan River on bridge. Okay, and then I also have a footbridge added below that as well. Anything else, clarification on transportation or other ideas as we've been talking that you'd like to get included? Okay, moving right along. Economic development. We have summer dark sky events, arts support and performance, active transportation. I think that, and I should have called that out. There are, some things that are gonna be on multiple categories. So active
They overlap.
transportation has come up again, and that is, on economic development here. Shoulder businesses extend seasonal. Can I have a little bit of clarification, just like supporting businesses, on the shoulder season, is that kind of the thought, or?
Well, we closed down for winter, and it's hard on the
Got it, okay. So ideas for like quote unquote off season or shoulder season to support those businesses, is that a good way to?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put, support of businesses during off shoulder season. All right, performing arts center, and then airport and other fees. So just kind of that fee structure. Anything else to add? Anything folks wanted to clarify? All right. Heritage and historic preservation. Archive old records. That has a check mark. Walkable Bluff to include information on sites. Also has a check mark. complete the cemetery cemetery transfer from San Juan County, establish the board with compliance with Utah laws and transparency. And that does have a check mark. Bluff Area Source Literature Archive, check. Black Locust Foot Traffic only, question mark? Little clarification on that one?
Yeah, I just think that somewhere we need to shut down traffic in one of the streets eventually, and just have it so that people can walk.
Okay,
It ought to go over really well with the local businesses.
all right.
I suggest shutting down
I'm gonna
traffic.
shut down motorized
Yeah,
traffic
shut
on
down
a
something.
street. So there's a foot traffic,
Yeah,
okay, excellent. We also have recycling on this one. Health, safety, and infrastructure, big category. Utilize the CCC effectively. Get CCC up and running.
Yeah.
Finalize water department, / operations in town management. So finalize water department and operations in town management, and that one has a few checkmarks behind it. Active transportation would definitely fall under infrastructure and safety and health as well. Upgrade county landfill, footbridges on river and wash. Any additions to health, safety, and infrastructure right now? Okay. Underwater. I've got one underwater, and it says move Bluff Waterworks under the town instead of San Juan County. Multiple check marks behind that one.
yeah.
I think that pretty well encompasses it. Does anyone like to add anything else underwater? Preservation of open spaces and natural spaces. Encourage open access to river and canyons for residents and visitors while in town. The corner of Twin Rocks / Liza. Can I get a little clarification on that one?
Does that say open space above that?
Yes,
That's why I put it there.
gotcha.
If
Okay.
that was open space,
Which,
town would,
which corner? Or that whole
the corner
intersection?
of Liza,
Dick,
Rocks, and kind of Bluff Dwelling across the street from Liza, that little four-leaf section right there.
that section that's for sale or lease, that's
Yeah.
downstream from Bluff.
I did just put a little welcome bathroom there with a little town map, just keep it natural with some big rocks around. It's kind of what I think would be highest and best use for the people and the businesses in town, because that stayed natural, and I've talked about this for 4 years. The farm is there, the bluff's there, it's at the center of our canyon.
Are you talking about on the north, or sort of the northwest side of the highway there?
So east of Liza, across the street from Liza, where Steve's got that lease sign, that open space between Bluff Dwelling and Liza.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That corner to me is like,
Yeah,
the future of Bluff.
Yeah.
Right, on that.
Does everyone know the space we're talking about? This is correct.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and move on from that. Again, we're
Go ahead.
just voting aye.
Good.
All right. Implementation and enforcement. We've got one thing under here. Establish method of enforcement for code violations, zoning, and permits. I think that's pretty all-encompassing. Are we good to move on to miscellaneous? The great miscellaneous. Okay. Hire a bookkeeper. Hire a minute taker. And is that hire a minute taker for future councils, or just hire a minute taker as a?
We want people to run for the new councils, and if they think that they might be stuck.
I see.
That's right.
Okay, all right, I got you.
Good idea.
So it's a bullet point. Okay.
well, it's for the effectiveness of the council too. I mean, a council member, regardless of what, I know you would object, but you can't participate if you're taking minutes really as well.
Hire a minute taker. All right, establish pay for council members.
4 of us are retired on the council.
Do you feel retired?
Who's working too, though? This one had her.
All right, hire code enforcement officer / inspector, and then set a fee schedule. Any other miscellaneous? That's actually pretty good on time here, so any other miscellaneous that you wanna add? And again, this is not the all-inclusive, this is just to kind of get us get us moving. The purpose of a strategic plan is then, you know, and I will admit, you know, we're jumping a little bit ahead even in having this discussion, because we really do want to have with the entire community, you know, this discussion of, you know, where are we right now? Where do we need to go? But I think it feels good to get some of these written down to start, just so we know, you know, there is some really big projects out here. But with that strategic plan, it's gonna break down a lot of these into like the timeline. We can prioritize what comes first. We can prioritize, and understand which of these projects will require additional tasks and projects before them. You know, clearly we can't launch into all of these. And so that's why it's just so important, in my opinion, to just start with this brainstorm, and then as you go through the strategic planning process, it all starts to kind of funnel in, and you get action behind it. So, that, I'm gonna end there. We did not get to the SWOT analysis. Honestly, that could be like hours of fun.
What is SWOT analysis?
So the SWOT analysis is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so I use the acronym SWOT. Other consulting firms might look at, you know, they might call it kind of something else. But SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you create kind of this little matrix, and it's broken up. The strengths and weaknesses are on the top. Those are your internal factors. And then your opportunities and threats are your external factors that are going to be impacting you and maybe either helping you or preventing you from accomplishing your goals. And I think it's a really good discussion to have. I mean, we clearly know, you know, it's hard work. This is hard work. But we need to recognize, you know, the areas where we can really capitalize on what we already have, and then the areas where it might take a little extra work because we have these additional threats. So that's a whole other discussion, but really starts, it really helps you in figuring out how these things kind of all fit in. So I did want to leave the rest of the time today for the discussion about your Pathways Associate. So I can turn that back over probably to Ann and or Jim.
Thank you very much, Erin. That's a really good preface to everything that we're about to do.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that, it's really necessary for all of us to get kind of on the same page and know where we're thinking, so that we're not spending, this kind of time with the pathway people or whoever we end up hiring. I think laying out all these ideas, Erin's really, really helpful. With that in mind, Jim has met with Pathways twice, or 3 times. 3 times, I think.
Yeah, well, formally, actually a couple of times, but yeah, I've met with them enough to have a lot of respect for them.
And I've been in on 2 of the meetings. I'll just say that, you know, a couple of years ago when we talked about strategic planning, the general consensus was that we could do the planning. And with taking on, the CCC, the joint partnership, taking on a remodel of the community center, which we didn't have on any of the lists, that's a huge project. Looking at all of it, it just felt like we needed to go back to Liza Springmeyer and say, what can you offer? And then Erin raised a couple of points with, we can hire a consultant without putting it out for bid, because it's like hiring our attorney or the accountant. When I reached out to that amazing facilitator for the history division, I asked her if she took on private jobs, because it isn't a matter of, at least in my mind, strategic planning doesn't require that anybody knows municipal law or knows how we function. They know how, it needs to be somebody who knows how to facilitate the discussion, and as Erin pointed out, has a deliverable goal and an actionable plan to get there. And the woman whose name I'm drawing a blank on.
Julie DeLong?
Yeah, the woman from the history. Anyway, she responded with, she didn't take private work, but she recommended 3 different groups, and one was Pathways. And then, there was some other state entity, maybe it was Utah League of Cities and Towns, but pathways came up repetitively, which is why it made sense to go to them. Brant?
I read the synopsis, and it looked really good and really thorough, so I'm favorably, really excited about doing that. And I looked at some of the costs involved, and I'm sure there's a way to mitigate some of that, but we could treat it as a little bit of a capital project, and we could just frame it as that. That's what it would be, a plan for the future, capital project for the future. So I'm not deterred by the cost, and I'm really excited about this exercise.
And I think it's been raised a couple of times. It's $32,000, $7,000 down payment, and then incrementally as we do the work. If you look at it as a $32,000 cost, it's kind of daunting. If you break it out into a 7-year plan, and that's what we're paying for, is the work over a period of time in 7 years. We're not going to be going for 7 years with this group. You know, we're going a short window of time to plan.
7 years with the plan.
Right, and I think I had to rethink it in my brain. It's the cost that we're spreading out. So if Jim understands the plan really well, so do you guys have questions about it, thoughts about it,
Well,
objections
I'm
to it?
familiar with the planning process, and one of the pluses with this group, as well as a kind of a, you know, it could be seen as a negative, they have not worked with municipalities before. They worked with the various economic development pieces of city governments, like I think they worked with the Salt Lake County Economic Development, and they had some other things that they've done, but they have not worked with a municipality yet. Most of their work is with nonprofits. But it's really the same process. It doesn't really matter whether it's a profit or a municipality or a corporation. I mean, essentially all those elements that Aaron described are going to be present. You've got your stakeholders, you've got your obstacles, whatever you call them, threats or whatever, and so forth. So to my mind, in my experience, there's really a talent involved in that kind of facilitation. These people, you can learn all you want to, and I've learned a lot about it, but there's a talent to be able to work with a group and to move something along in a gentle but firm way without alienating people and without, you know, and being able to answer everyone's questions. It's really something that I think people are born with almost. I mean, you have to have it, you know.
Yeah, and I would second that. So I definitely did have questions, you know, I've done strategic planning in the past, but I think that their process is very sound. They've spelled that out accurately. As I said, the actionable items, that's my biggest thing. I want to make sure that we have something at the end of the day, deliverable, that we can execute on. However, I think there's something to be said about what Jim just said, is being able to pull in all of these stakeholders, some of which, you know, don't have, you know, we're still working on the working relationship with a lot of those stakeholders. You know, you leaps and bounds over the last 4 years, of course, but I see a benefit in having someone besides the six of us lead those discussions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it'll either validate our sense of what's going on, or it will challenge it. So that's all good. Yeah, I was a little. I thought that 12 focus groups or interviews that they had in the proposal, I thought that's a little light. I think they need to go to 15 or so, even 18 is what they kind of mentioned. And they acknowledge that you tend to think this town is sort of all together, but actually this town is more diverse than a lot of cities and municipalities that are a lot larger. I mean, we've really got some sort of extremes out there, a few of them, and sometimes there's not much you can do about that, but at least get those people's voices in and see what happens.
Question. I know in the last night we had talked about a discussion?
No, I was wrong on the 3
No,
months.
that's okay, I just wanted to make sure we
No.
had that expectation.
No, I,
What time,
I think what I was thinking was the 3 months to the end of the year. I don't know what I was
no,
thinking.
no,
And I
you're,
I wanted,
to get it.
Well-
and I wanted to agree with Jim for once instead of being.
Yeah, that was nice of you, thank you.
Yeah, we're still in the match.
Even when I'm wrong, I like that.
One of the things,
I do it a lot with you.
one of the questions that I asked, because this to me is the really big question, is how do they handle, somebody who's digging in their heels or a
He's
stakeholder.
adversarial.
Yeah, who's adversarial. How is that handled? And they had, both of the Julie and Judith had really good responses, and, you know, what should be common sense to me, and isn't always, is, you know, you get their buy-in, you figure out why they have a difference of opinion and how they got there, and what can you do to find the common ground. And I was just super impressed. And I will say that for anybody in the community thinking that Liza Springmeyer, the Springmeyers are going to economically benefit from this, she will not be a part of the team. So
No.
Liza will be cheering us on as always the Springmeyers do, but she is not economically benefiting from it. Her job is nonprofit fundraising, and she's very good at it.
So this is the perfect time to do this after 4 years.
I agree.
You know, it's just time to, go ahead and develop this big bucket list of,
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to the point where we've got a lot of revenue, we've got a substantial amount of revenue, and we've got some big ideas, and we're getting to the point where we could make some economic errors if we're not careful. I mean, we could go in a direction that, you know, spend some money on it and, find out that it's not gonna pan out, or that people aren't gonna like it, or, you know, there are a lot of pitfalls as we go along, and this helps to eliminate those pitfalls.
So financially, we're past COVID, and we're on much better ground.
Oh, I've been keeping track on it, we're looking pretty good for a town our size.
So I went through this process in a different group that I'm in, and this one is cheaper, maybe cheaper is the right word.
Inexpensive.
Yeah, this is, and it was really helpful.
Hmm.
And it's similar, you know, over
Sure.
time, the interviews, and so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was really good.
Well, it's gotten really scientific, you know, in the last 10 years, I mean, strategic
like
planning.
baseball.
Yeah,
You know,
they're not just,
players and people. Metrics.
yep,
On our list, and I think that's one thing we should add is financial investment. See what we can do with that. And the other thing I'm wondering about is just the timing of this plan. This has got this PC rebuild and the grant and everything going. Got the fire infrastructure going there. We've got the active transportation thing will start in January. So would it be better to aim like at June and get it done for 6 months? We have two
Yeah.
members leaving.
Next year's my last year, sorry to interrupt.
Right, oh, well,
Well,
you're saying the
I'm
same
getting off
thing.
the board.
You're saying the same
I mean, I'm
thing.
up for election.
Well, that's true, yeah,
So-
that's true.
To me, starting now makes more sense for transition.
And as long as everybody has the energy to.
And
well,
that's,
you know,
that's another great.
we're not gonna get more energy.
That's another great reason to bring in the consulting firm is, you know, I will be totally frank, I mean, you all already do so much, and I have a full-time job, and it's already full. So, I think the sooner you get started, the better, just for other, you know, the other reasons of, you know, you have these big projects that are financially significant, you wouldn't wanna add any more on until you know exactly how you
Yeah.
organize it. So my vote would be soon, now.
I think these surveys are made to not be intrusive to normal life. You know what I mean? They put them in, they give you time to get them done. That's what I've been doing. And they're not like they drop something on the weekend, that you gotta have that grant out by Monday too, you know?
And for me, to go to Lou's question is, I honestly had no clue how big that CDBG grant and the requirements are. They are so stringent and so daunting that I want to have a big conversation that's kind of, maneuvered by somebody other than me to figure out how we're going to do this, if, assuming we even get a bid on it. And that would start, if we got a bid of, we'd probably get that, middle of November, we decide on who's getting the project, and we're gonna need some major brainstorming on that, so I'm hoping this will help us.
I'll tell you, I think that thing is gonna need a project director, at least part-time. I mean, there are so many pieces to that with the employers and the employees and I mean, you've got to find out from the employees actually what's going on. You've gotta,
Right,
And then where do you go in the process, like, what happens to?
right, we need a plan.
I mean, I don't spend much time, but still have everything stored in.
Right. Aaron and I've been talking, Linda and I've been talking, I mean, it's a big whatever. I think it's Jim's fault, because he should have taken those books and heaved them out of the bus on the way back to Salt Lake.
I was getting paid mileage, you know?
Didn't ride the motorcycle.
I don't
Okay,
wanna lose the money.
okay, back to Aaron then.
I very much appreciate everyone coming in today, you know, clearly this is a big process, but I would like to encourage, you all to, you know, potentially put pathways as something to vote upon in your next meeting.
Yep.
Like I said, you know, I have concerns as well, it's a large expenditure of money, but as everybody was talking about here, there's certainly benefits.
I think based on the conversation we've had here,
And would you,
council is favorable to this idea, so that's very exciting.
and then would you be the point person, would you be the one that kind of keeps communication from them, us, and like, with that?
Oh, I think they're gonna be able to communicate pretty well. I mean, you know, we're paying a fair amount of money. I think they're gonna,
I think that
at least
also
with
maybe
the mayor, they're gonna be.
like, if we're doing like community engagement sessions and stuff, like that would definitely be something that, you know, could fall to me to make sure it's coordinated. But besides that, I mean, for what you're paying them, I definitely would say they are the ones who are really gonna pay it.
Yeah, I kind of envision at least the interviews and the, public hearings, they will just give us some dates they'd like to use, and we'll go through the community center management and then funnel down to Aaron to get on the calendar. They'll be doing the scheduling work and telling us what they need from us when they need it.
Right.
Where are they based out of?
They are in Salt Lake.
Okay, and is that's all factored into the proposal?
Yeah, everything
I
is,
want to put that on record, so that we wouldn't.
everything is,
Yeah.
the only thing that's not factored in, and they're gonna go back and kind of look at it, was Jim's suggestion that this might be light on the number of interviews, and what their answer was, and I'm not going to hold them to this, but their answer was maybe just shifting some of what they're doing into those interviews so that the price wouldn't change. So I don't expect it to increase. If it does, it would be certainly something to talk about, but, yeah. So I'll have it on for voting on Tuesday, yeah.
Did they have a date to start?
They do, in the proposal, I think,
Is that an available time?
I think I think early October.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it did.
Yeah.
Is it October 2022?
Yeah, it's definitely in 2022, it's definitely in this coming
Can we
quarter.
talk a little bit about, something else, in this, or are we forbidden? It's actually strategic or tactical.
Well, there is an other, so we can move to number 3, other.
What is the plan for the offices when they start tearing out the, west end of this building, or they start rebuilding the west end of this building?
Well, that's a really good question, and it's something I've been pondering. 3 of you basically don't come into the office, which is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so, with the idea that fire suppression will not occur until 2023 because of
Correct.
materials and money, we have to have a plan. So I've been looking at the grant, and I think we can, if we get there's great concern among several people that we will not get a bid because it is way too low of a, amount to get anybody to meet the qualifications of a federal bid. That being said, if we get a bidder who qualifies with all those things that we have to accept the bid, then the discussion before we accept the bid is how could we phase that project? One of the things is we, in the bid is a shed. We get the shed up when we get the stuff out of here. Okay, then we do one office and keep moving and just shifting. But when it's done, we have to all go to the CCC because these can't be government office places. I think that hopefully by then we have to fire.
Place in the interim if we're out of space.
We could, I was thinking that, a plan A or B could be to just get the food out of the food bank over in that other side and ask UDB if we can just get some offices in there and upgrade that space enough to where people can actually work. It's a pretty sizable space. It looks small now, but I mean, it's Heather's in her half and she's in there with a partner and they're gonna have meetings in there. I mean, it's pretty large, so.
If we stage it, which is what Aaron and Linda and I have talked about, stage it, get that first stage done would be the food pantry area, so we could move the food pantry in. And we talked about the modular. We also talked about the possibility of purchasing another modular or another building. That one, in my opinion, gives me the creeps. It's musty, it's definitely got some issues going on. Would it be better just to talk with UDB and jointly purchase something?
James tried to hook that water cooler up in the modular, I believe, so I'm wondering if that.
I think we ought to just forget about the,
Yeah, Heather has the cooler off.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to use it. She said the carpet is icky, and I would agree. So, I mean, I've been thinking about it. I am probably more concerned about this piece. We're not going to get a bidder. I'm going to have to go to CDBG and ask, what do I do if I can't get a bid, a qualified bidder? And in addition to that, we have ARPA and state matching funds. What's my backup? Can I do a backup? I've got a little more time to use those funds. And
you're not the only person. There were questions that when I went to those meetings from people who already had gotten these grants and were in the same boat because they're in a small town like us. There just aren't that many companies that can meet all those stringent requirements of the government, where, you've just got to have all these, everything done. And
Did they have any directions for them?
I think they do. I was tuning that out. I thought, oh, those poor people. We're not going to have that problem, But then I started looking through the
They come to us.
stuff, but they're used to answering that question.
no, they're not. Right now, they're so new. They've got a whole new. Some of them are experienced, and most of the ones I have to deal with right now this is their first year, and they're struggling to.
So one
They
thing
better
just to
figure it
think
out.
about when you think about doing the stages, and I haven't done a ton of construction, but it's not like cleaning a room, like you can clean that one and then move it.
Oh, right.
They wanna do every wall,
Yep.
they wanna strip everything
That's
out,
right.
they wanna put every light in, they don't wanna do, it's gonna
Piece
cost
by
them 3
piece.
times as much, cause they're
Yep.
gonna
Yeah.
contract you that room, and then that one, and then they got different painting again, and then they gotta get drywall in, and the other way around, but, you're gonna need to clear that whole,
Yeah, they're going to want to do all the demo,
yeah.
and they're going to want to do all the framing.
Well,
and then
so
they're
don't
gonna,
think about, I mean, you can think about.
Yeah,
Wrong, but
Louis,
if you get a one
yeah.
person contractor that's willing to do it at a slow pace, if they have a crew, they're gonna wanna come in and do each crew.
Trying to think of how to answer that.
Let's
I will,
get the bidders on.
I will obsess about every single piece of this and every which way we can do it. But I would welcome any suggestions if we get a bidder. Cause I don't
But when
see
you
that
get the
happening.
bidder in, they need to be aware of what you need for them
Right.
to be able
And-
to do it.
Yeah, I don't single-handedly get to pick the bidder, so we'll have that discussion. Yeah. I mean, there's stuff we can do. My biggest panic is, this is one big project that I tuned them out when I went 2 years ago, because we were just doing a water study. So those Davis-Bacon wages, not my problem. Now it's my problem. So, I mean, we'll get a plan. Or,
We started the process on Friday, it'll go out, be advertised. We've got a month and a half to, it's a month that they can turn in a bid, but a month and a half that people are gonna think about it. And
Those are, another thing to add to what we've done, we've gotten the CDBG grant twice now. We got that CIRD grant, we've got, we're applying for more, but I mean, that's a big.
yeah,
I've got grants,
we've got
I can put.
care, we've got the,
We're booked up, we're booked up for a little while.
Yeah, but I mean, we've gotten those time, like that water grant was great.
yeah. And the CARES money, the ARPA money, the state federal matching money, and we've done a lot. And that's why sometimes when I hear the negative comments, I get really super defensive. It's like, we've done way more than any small town, according to the Utah League of Cities and Towns, at 4 years. Way more.
Ever.
Yeah, I mean, and Cameron Deal has been very clear about that.
Yeah.
But I just would ask that everybody, look at that plan from Pathway, and if we're gonna start it, let's start it.
Well,
Remember, I said that, right?
the reconstruction was, like, I plan on what's built on the side, it's but it won't affect it here.
No.
This has been fantastic.
I mean, you're right, there are other things. I thought about cubicles up here, and we could just pull the curtains when you have an event. I mean, there are things we can do, but I'm more worried about finding a qualified bidder, and that is,
Yeah.
I may just call Powell, who no longer is doing CDBG, and just pick his brain, or Michael Bryant, pick their,
Right, it comes to us here, but
Yeah, and that's, like, I'm just thinking that if we're gonna do, if we do that, might be.
Yeah, but boy, just trying to coordinate this thing all by itself, trying to coordinate it with something else. But yeah,
Financially, it would be very difficult to do this at the same time.
Oh.
And managing 2 grants, because that would require 2 grants.
yeah.
We're not gonna pony up the money for both. It
and-
would be 2
Reach
grants.
out
so
to
that-
Holly.
I don't think so.
and keep in mind that the remodel here involves technically 3 grants. It's the CDBG federal, it's the ARPA federal, and the state match. And I had to, I mean, it should have been clear when I had to dance around all the hurdles to come up with the plan, that this was not gonna be easy. But we'll do it, and we'll make things,
We make hard,
Well,
what do you think, don't we?
That's right.
if we can get the fire suppression system in over there,
yeah.
we can enter the building, and we can actually do stuff in the building, despite what the contract says. We don't have to own it our space in order to get in there and set up a desk or whatever, because.
Do we wanna try to get up a little less of the, locks? We got a couple of locks changed over there, if we get Billy or Monty Brad.
Well, we've got a problem on that end, so, we can talk about that. It's 12:12. Do people want to talk about any other strategic thing,
Motion
or?
to adjourn. Got 2 seconds.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.